Funny enough, I think it's all in the storytelling that really let me know where I was supposed to be. If I had worried about where I was going to get to, I would have been stuck at the first base. You trying to figure out the best way to hit that ball. You can't be fearful, but you can't control everything in life. You certainly can't control everything when it comes to business, because not everything with business is be controlled by you, right? You still have to answer to clients and other people. I think if I was nervous or fearful or scared in the beginning, I may have talked myself out of it. I may have talked myself into going a completely different direction. If you're constantly looking at something and comparing yourself, one of the two things: you'll be stuck there watching everybody, or you'll wind up trying to chase what somebody else has. And I don't want that. I want what's for me. This is Stephanie Scott-Bradshaw, and you're listening to Dreams in Drive.
Hey, Dream Drivers, welcome to episode 353 of the Dreams in Drive podcast. And I am super excited about today's guest, Stephanie Scott-Bradshaw. So I am all about giving the flowers to the people behind the scenes, the visionaries, the ones who are really making things happen for your favorite people. So if you think about some of the past guests on this show, some of your favorite Black and brown beauty and wellness brands, Stephanie Scott-Bradshaw is that woman behind the magic, right? I've known Stephanie for years, pre-Dreams and Drive days, and she has always supported Dreams and Drive, supported me personally in so many ways. And so I'm so honored to have her in the guest chair. Normally I feature her clients, but having her in the guest chair today means so much to me. So here's a little bit more about Stephanie Scott-Bradshaw. She is the CEO and Communicator-in-Chief of First and Last PR, which is an award-winning public relations and digital marketing agency that focuses on beauty, wellness, and healthy lifestyle. Stephanie is a lifelong storyteller, innovative strategist, and detailed obsessed creator who understands the business, right? And on this episode, we're going to dive into what does this really mean in real life? What does this mean for a dream driving journey? Stephanie takes us back, and I learned a lot of things about her, such as her unconventional early years, what it was like going to Spelman, and how she really found out who she was in those college years, landing a job at Essence after college, and just how she moved through PR and beauty and figuring out, or not even figuring out, but what led her to launching her own PR firm. So we're going to go through that whole journey. And of course, she's also going to give us some PR 101, some tips that we can implement along our own dream driver journey. So especially if you're an influencer, if you're a brand and you want some tips from a pro, tune into this entire episode because you will be learning something from her. If this is your first time listening, please make sure that you're following us across the board. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Dreams and Drive. Use that hashtag Dreams and Drive when sharing. And also make sure that you're signed up for our email newsletter, The Key, so that you get weekly email updates delivered right to your inbox. Just go to dreamsanddrive.com/join. That's dreamsanddrive.com/join. All right, let's dive into this episode with Stephanie.
Hi, Irina. Thanks for having me today.
I know, it's funny, in prep for this interview, so I was like, how did I first meet Stephanie, right? And I couldn't remember, but I do remember before I was even a podcaster, I was a blogger, right? And I remember I had interviewed you for my series called Brand Makers, where we were talking about you building First and Last PR. And I think at that time it was only 3 years old, right? And there's a quote from that interview that I just want to kind of put in your mind now. We'll get to it, but I just love it. And I think that it really does touch on all that you have done since then. And you said, keep putting in the work that will keep you moving forward and progressing. It will pay off. So Stephanie Scott, because by that time, back in 2015, you were still Stephanie Scott, right? You said that. How does it feel hearing those words from 7 years ago?
It sounds like I was telling the truth. It sounds like, more relevant today than it was before. Yeah. I mean, I think, back then I had to put the work back in. My company was so new, but I think also now there's such a dream that comes in with owning your own company. A lot of it is social media it just looks so cute and so fun. You could just get your day job, just start your business, and everything is going to be perfect. And you'll
make your own schedule, sleep when you want, work when you want. Okay.
all those wonderful things, right? And everything will just come to you automatically. You'll have sales right off the back if you're doing like an online business, and you'll be on Instagram with all the biggest labels and making reels. All those things will happen just automatically. It doesn't happen like that.
Right? It doesn't happen like that. But before we talk about how it does happen, let's go all the way back in time, because I love starting back to when we were children, right? So tell me, where did you grow up, Stephanie? Where in the world?
New Jersey. I'm a Jersey.
Oh, you did? Where in Jersey were you from?
Central Jersey for the majority of my life.
Whatever. We don't care about y'all people. I'm just playing. Okay, so you're a Jersey girl. So talk to me about the 8-year-old Stephanie, right? What was inspiring you as a child, and like, how did you see the world back then, if you remember?
Discovery, I think, was the big key for me when I was 8. And I think I probably carried that out to now, but it was always kind of trying to figure out what was happening, what was going on, and also trying to understand and relate to like different cultures and different things that were happening. Because I was from New Jersey, but I had a very diverse family. And so I went to a really cool school when I was an 8. I went to a school that was school full time during the school year, but then over the summertime, it was a day camp. And so it was family run. It was very small, very intimate. They had a farm, it was called Lane Robbins.
That's kind of cool. That is kind of cool.
Central Jersey.
We don't have that up here in North Jersey. We just have, not that.
The school's out, it's done. But it was amazing. It was on a farm. So they were like livestock animals. We had a chance to learn about that growing up. In the summertime, once a week, you had a different activity. So maybe it was going roller skating. We always, went swimming every day. And we learned archery. There was just a lot of different things. And so when I was 8, I was just very much involved in trying out different things. My mom had recently graduated from college by then, because it took my mom 10 years to finish her degree.
Okay.
She got married. And anyway, so she graduated a little bit before I turned 8. And when she was going to Rutgers, she would take my brother and I to class with her. And so she would drop us off if we weren't in the classroom. She enrolled us in ballet. My brother was in art classes. It was just, we took piano. It was how involved can you be in trying to, A, become the best version of yourself, and then B, also really discovering what that was. So I think when I was 8, it was really about just learning as much as possible, really getting involved as much as possible, and seeing what can I do? What am I put here to do to change the world? So that was my 8-year-old.
So that's amazing that your mom really knew to invest in that in you. You know what I mean? Because I feel like we're all unique beings. Now that I have a kid, I understand there might have been some natural inclinations that she probably saw in you. Like, let me put her in a place that will really help her thrive, right? It's so important because that's what you remember about your childhood, and those things still stick to you, right? And now growing up, you can see the influence that they must have had on your life.
Definitely. And even going back and seeing black and white photos from then, because she was taking a photography class. So black and white photos of me in the ballet class, with my leotard on. I was the one Black girl in that ballet class. And so being in there and just kind of learning the different things. When I did wind up going to elementary school and I was in the 5th grade, I was cast into a play and kind of learning about that also. So just kind of figuring out what the right thing was, but always knowing that she wanted me to be the best version that I could be, and having that, and still does, so to have that support is really, really wonderful. Also, not to knock the exploration, right?
That's what I was going to say, because that's a unique experience to have in elementary school, right?
Definitely. And not to say that you have to follow this one path, you have to be this thing. I don't know. My mother just kind of let me and still be who I am. I think that's a beautiful thing because there is a huge creative part to me. There's a business side, but there's also a huge creative part. And so not really capping that and saying, you have to be this, you have to be here, but let's just let you figure out who you're going to be and what that's going to look like. And I know it's going to be dope. Like, let's like figure that out. Yeah, it's great. And then I hear sometimes where other parents will kind of, limit their kids in a way or go down the traditional path, but to not be able to have that and to be appreciated for it and not feel different or other was amazing. So.
And then having that confidence, because I think when you expose your children early, they develop this confidence in like, I enjoy going out and exploring, right? Like I want to see what else is out there. I know you went to Spelman. Did you have that same like curious, exploratory spirit when you were in college as well? And then what was your dream for yourself at that age?
I definitely had the curious feeling at Spelman. I also had a feeling of like freedom. Like we have left New Jersey, we're in Atlanta, and this is wonderful. Yeah, when I was at Spelman, I definitely did a lot of exploring because it's a small liberal arts school at the time. I think there were like 28 or 32 majors, most of them, leaning towards heavy math, science, engineering, chemistry, and then some arts, but there certainly wasn't like a public relations major. There wasn't that. And so when I first went to Spelman, I thought very traditional careers, and a lot of it too, I think, is exposure. Like if you don't know their careers in this path, then how can you drive down that lane? If you don't know the road is there, how do you
I love that metaphor, right?
So part of it, when I first went, I thought traditional. I want to be a teacher. Then I want to be a lawyer. And then I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew that I was interested in representation, images of women in the media, images of Black women in the media, but I didn't know what to do. And so at one point while I was at Spelman, I actually had an independent major where you can kind of create your own, it has to get approved through faculty, obviously, but you can kind of create your own syllabus and you can learn what you want to. And so I thought about that. And I also thought about graduating on time. So I settled on sociology, but even with my sociology, that was really like to study people, how we all interact together. And even with that, I wound up studying media through sociology. So images of women in the media, how many times have we appeared, on different covers? Are we seen in dominant roles? Are we seen in different career aspects? And if we're not, how does that then affect how society sees us? How does that affect how we see ourselves? So a lot of what I did was definitely very much exploratory at Spelman. I also got very involved in the community while I was there. So I worked different part-time jobs, had a chance to learn that. I worked on everything from like fashion shows at college, fashion show production.
That seems like fun.
A lot of fun. A lot of fun, but I worked on them at the college. And then I also met some of the designers that would like Linda's clothes. So I wound up working for smaller boutiques in Atlanta, helping to work behind the scenes at those fashion shows, like at the malls and different things. So very, very, it was very, very interesting. I'll say that. I worked in a nightclub for a while at college.
Stephanie, you are a woman of many lives. You know what's funny? Knowing what you do now, all that stuff was so important to laying the foundation for what you're able to do for your brand and your clients.
Yeah.
Like, you're the queen of events. Like, you need a beauty PR event. You guys need to hire Stephanie and her team, okay? She throws it down when it comes to beauty PR. So,
yeah. Well, it's funny because the club that I worked for, it was a club called ESSO that started here in New York, and the owner decided to open up a location in Atlanta.
Okay.
And one night, I was there because of a fashion show. We're supposed to have like a model call. And then once the model call was done, a graduate from Morehouse, but years and years ago, was having a party there. And whoever was going to be the door person wound up canceling last minute. And they were like, do you want to make some money? And I'm like, yeah, why not? I'm in college.
You a bouncer too?
No, I was the door girl.
Okay, so like checking the list, making sure that, okay.
Collecting the money. So like whoever was paying to come in, he didn't have a VIP list. He wanted all the money. So he was purposely like hiding in the back because he knew, he told me if people saw him, they would want to get in for free. So he's like, don't anybody know that I'm here. Okay. But my role was to collect the money at the door. And so that one night turned into many of nights working at the nightclub as the door girl. But it was great because I got a chance to, really get to know the Atlanta nightlife. I had a chance to meet different celebrities. I threw my 21st birthday party at that
What
club.
did you notice or what did you learn about consumer behavior? right? Because as a sociologist, so I also studied sociology at Princeton, right? There must have been something that you were realizing about the types of people that went to the club, how people acted. Like, was this kind of, I probably would have made it some kind of experiment in my head or some kind of like social, what do they call it in sociology when you're like in the field? There was something, you know what I mean? Like, what were you noticing about just people in general during this time?
I mean, so many different things, and I think it depends on the type of person also. I mean, there were some people that came regularly. They wanted to be recognized. We had some people that were celebrities and they wanted to come in, with a certain protocol and, with people. Everyone just wanted to have a good time. I mean, I think Atlanta's like a different vibe, but ultimately you want to have a good time. Or you had the flossy people, people who came with whatever designer, whatever jewelry, whatever watches. Whatever rims, it depends. It depends on the night, the person. But yeah, I mean, that's a whole movie. It's a whole book waiting to be
Maybe
written.
That's first and last media. You never know. That might be the next movie. That could be a first pilot. I just gave you an idea to go back in time and relive that. What were you learning about yourself, Stephanie, during this time, right? Because I'm guessing you hadn't yet graduated, but you were probably thinking about, okay, I'm kind of good at this, or I like this part of what I'm doing. What was that for you?
I liked the independence that I knew. Okay. I knew that there were certain things that weren't going to fit me and that it was okay. I also learned a lot about people and how just to be nice to people, how to respect people. I saw that from my bosses and like the owners, to, different interactions that I had. And also that every relationship is going to circle back around as well. So, this person that you see now, you will see them again and you will see them again. And so how to kind of build on that.
Ladies, we say period a lot, but do we ever talk about periods, aka our menstrual cycle? So I'm busy, I'm active, I'm always on the go, and sometimes pads just don't do it for me. I want to be able to move around and just feel, free. And here's the thing, a lot of us are scared of tampons and we don't have to be. So let me tell you why. When inserted properly, tampons shouldn't hurt. Like a pad, Tampax can absorb even your heavy flow and give you an up to 100% leak-free experience you can't see or feel. And growing up in our communities as a teen, I remember there being this whole stigma and taboo around girls who used tampons versus girls who didn't. So I didn't really have anyone to talk to about it. Now, as a 30-something-year-old, I'm like, no, let's talk about it. Tampax has me covered. Chill mode, check. Supermom mode, check. On the go mode, check. Tampax is always there for the different types of days I have. There is no right or wrong way to manage your period. I'm just saying, mix it up sometimes and try Tampax. Whether you're searching for the latest sneaker drop, that iconic handbag, a timeless watch, or your next piece of classic jewelry, eBay authenticators are there verifying every detail of your purchase. Yep, we're talking each inch, stitch, tick, facet, and clasp that make the piece you're searching for worthy of your collection. eBay authenticators are experts in their craft, true connoisseurs, and as leaders in their fields, they're making sure your items always arrive as authentic as your style. So go ahead, get that piece you've always wanted, and leave it up to the meticulous eyes of an eBay authenticator to make sure that watch movement is original, that glimmer is real gold, that rare sneaker is legit, or that handbag is really made of genuine leather, and never get faked over again. In a world full of fakes, it's time to get real with eBay Authenticity Guarantee. Everyone deserves real. Visit ebay.com for terms. Hey Dream Drivers, ever since becoming a mom, life has changed for me in so many ways, and I've learned so much about what it takes to be a mother. One of the things I realized early on in this dream driving journey was how important having the right tools, aka diapers, in my toolkit is. When it comes to changing those dirty diapers, for me, it's all about making the smartest choice. I need reliability and quality, and Pampers gives me that. You may save a couple cents on other brands, but will you save time and convenience? Who wants more leaky diapers, more laundry, because poop stains are not fun? And better yet, diaper rash? Not me. I don't worry about that with Pampers. There are other things you can save on, but honestly, your baby deserves the Pampers experience. I've sworn by Pampers with my son for the past 2 years. It's gentle on his skin, and I can trust that they can hold up throughout usage. As a busy dream driver already juggling so much, your diapers choice should be easy and worry-free. Make sure you download the Pampers Club app today to start earning free diapers.
I think at that time I was really just trying to figure out, I don't know if I was trying to figure out too much, to be honest. I was in school and I was kind of just loving like being there. Atlanta is a hot city. And it was,
I hear it's a vibe. You know, I haven't been to Atlanta as like an adult and experienced the Atlanta experience, but I definitely hear it's a vibe.
Amazing. And I was kind of in between these, I feel like 2 different crowds, which I still feel like I always am. There was a huge part of me that was like very much, you know, earthy, going to parties like Red Clay Party. Red Clay was this underground magazine. You would have loved it. And probably every quarter they would have a party where like the issue release party. They would be at a different location each time. So like an old record store, you know, or like Red Beans and Rice. It would just be at different places. And so that was just a 60s and 70s music, wear your jeans, wear your overalls, wear your sneakers, wear your corduroys. It was just that moment, and so fun and so sexy and just like amazing. And then, you know, the other half, which was, you know, the studious half, this half, well, I guess there's the third of me, student and half of me also, the student part of me. And then also just the fun part that want to just go to the mall and have a good time, or go and work and have a good time, and, you know, just be free and just enjoy that. So
you eventually graduated and you came back up north, right? You're like, I got to leave Atlanta. I like to take our listeners on a journey, right? So I feel like life is a journey. So we're in Atlanta. You say goodbye to Atlanta. You come back. You start your career in communications, right? I want to make sure I'm getting this right. Landed a job at Essence.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Fashion first. Okay. So how did I get to Essence? So while I was at Spelman, my mother embarrassed me by.
What did mama do?
She was being helpful, but I was, you know, in college, I was mortified. So I was in my junior year and I was trying to figure out what was I going to do for a major. I still wasn't, I mean, for a career after graduation, I still wasn't quite sure. I knew what was interesting, but I didn't really have as many career opportunities. And so my mom happened to meet an editor for Essence. Julia Chance, who was the fashion and beauty editor at the time. And she met her at a cousin's barbecue, a pool party, and said, you know, my daughter's at Spelman, doesn't know what she wants to do, but she likes magazines. And can she call you or can she talk to you? And so I'm now mortified because I'm like, I can't believe you told this woman at Essence. You know what I mean?
It was pretty dope of her to do that if you think about it, right?
Yeah. I wasn't mad. I was just like, oh my gosh.
Now you got to follow through and actually speak to her and do the whole 9 yards there. So
humble pie, you know, I think I called her because this was, we had email. Email was kind of starting. I'm like dating myself, but I think I called her, I emailed her, and I asked if she would take a meeting, if I could come visit her at the office when I get home. And Julie was polite enough and said yes. And so I took the New Jersey Transit bus, that suburban transit bus, into Penn Station. You know, I got all dressed up and I walked over and I met her for lunch. We had lunch in Bryant Park. And I was telling her all the things, all the, you know, different internships I was trying, and I didn't, you know, it wasn't a major, and what do I do? And so by the end of it, I asked if there was an internship available. And of course, because everything was, you know, just going well for me, I just thought, of course, there would be. And I found out that there was a program, but all the other applicants applied in December. But Julia said if I was interested, that I could intern with them, probably unpaid. She would ask, and I could come in a couple of days a week, and I could still learn about what it was like. And so I jumped at it. And so I wound up working at Nordstrom, selling shoes, Menlo Park Mall, for I think 4 days out of the week, like weekends included, and then I would work at days. So I interned there, and then when I graduated, a year later, I assumed that there'd be a job waiting for me. and there was not. As magazines work in most companies, there has to be an opening available. And so I wound up working for Tommy Hilfiger and then Kenneth Cole doing merchandising directly out of school, which are still great jobs. I mean,
so that's not too bad place to end up, right?
No, but it wasn't exactly what I wanted. And so I remember when I started at Kenneth Cole, I was doing merchandising and it was regionally. And so my role would have been to like travel to all the different stores that carry Kenneth Cole in the Northeast and like check on things. And I reached back out to a contact of mine at Essence and, said, hey, I'll be in the city, at corporate. Do you want to grab lunch? And she said, well, next week's my last week. So I said, well, who's filling your role? And they hadn't found anyone yet. And so I said, can I send over my resume? And I went through and I interviewed for it. And I remember calling one of my mentors, Lloyd, and I was like, I feel, I just got this job at Kenneth Cole. I was probably there for maybe 3 months. I don't know. Not a long time. I wasn't there for like a year. And I said, I shouldn't really leave. Like, isn't there a golden rule not to leave? And I remember him saying, well, where do you want to be in a year? And that put everything into perspective. It was like no other question. So I left and then I went over to Essence, and that's where some of the fun began.
That's where the beauty PR, the Stephanie Scott really started being born. What were you learning about the industry that you liked and what you were good at, right? Because I think our first few jobs always are kind of like, okay, I'm good at this, I'm good at that. But then you have that experience where it kind of clicks for you, right? What was that experience for you? It doesn't have to be at Essence, right? But somewhere before you launching your own company, was there an experience that just kind of made you realize I'm in the right place, but now I got to figure out where I want to be within the industry, right?
Funny enough, I think it's all in the storytelling that really like let me know where I was supposed to be. I don't always tell people, if you want to edit this out, feel free. But I was not a good writer when I was.
You got to keep that in. Let's talk about that, because people don't realize, like, you don't always have to be the best at something to be influential in it, right?
Yeah. When I was at Essence, I loved learning about the new products. I loved the presentations. I loved the formulations. I loved that aspect of it. I loved the photo shoots. I like the limelight. I like the photo. I liked, interviewing the different experts for the stories. I liked, the makeup artists and the hair and like figuring out the how and the connecting of people. I love that. The writing, I thought I was a really good writer, but I really wasn't.
Who checked you? Who was like, Stephanie, girl, what is this?
One of our top editors. I was too imaginative with my writing. I didn't understand that when you're writing for a publication, there is a voice of that publication. And so, I can't write butterflies and ribbons on everything. It really needs to be in the format of what that is. We had a couple different editors, but Vanessa Bush, who is now Vanessa. Oh, I'm going to say. Thank you.
Yeah.
She was our top editor for fashion and for beauty and was amazing. Like one of the best editors out there. And so she tried to work with me a little bit and like point out the why. I had other top editors, like a managing editor, who was just like, too much, bring it down. They'd always say like, cut it, slim it down, get to the point. I want to take you on a journey. This was not a journey. This was a 500 word, 1,000 word, get it in. By the time I got to Life and Style, I was good with quick writing. But then I had a whole story to tell. And they were like, not here. Save it for Raina's podcast.
Listen, that's how we having it, right? You need to be able to talk about that. So I know then, okay, talk to us about the road to first and last PR. Because I want to make sure we have some time to talk about you and what you're doing now. How did you realize, or why did you decide that entrepreneurship was the next thing for you?
I made the switch from edit to public relations. I wound up working for a luxury skincare company called 3Lab. And I handled all the marketing, all the communications, domestically and globally with them. And one of the coolest things about working with 3Lab is that the owners of that company also did third-party manufacturing. So I had a chance to really learn about the skincare industry and from the ground up. from ingredient suppliers to formulations to chemists to packaging, everything. And I think it was really there that I got a chance to really see that storytelling is key. Prior to coming on board with them, they had 2 other agencies that they had worked with. Both the agencies got them like 0 press. And so they were let go. And then I came on board and I didn't know that, which is a good thing because I probably would have been intimidated and not taken the job. But I think honestly it was there. When I was at 3Lab, I was a department of 1. I managed everything, writing the press releases, pitching the stories, editor appointments. I set up the first ever for them influencer visits to the lab during Fashion Week. I had an idea. So, hey, we have all these influencers that are coming into town. Why don't we invite them out to the office and let them see what things are like? They probably have never seen a manufacturing facility before. And that actually helped to spawn a huge number of stories in what they were doing and really understand things. So I think for me, it's always been about kind of connecting things and then seeing things just at a human level. So what really makes the most sense? I was at 3Lab for a number of years, and then I wound up leaving. I had an offer to work with Usher for his OMG tour. So I left there when I'm working with him. That was amazing. Like full stop.
Now you got that entertainment PR experience as well, which definitely probably is a whole nother beast, I can imagine.
It is. And you just learn a lot, and you learn a lot of really nice people, but also the importance of like deadlines, moving quickly, just a whole host of things that happened with it. And so when that tour was done, I think that was when I knew it was time for First and Last PR. As much as I loved working with Usher, I knew I did not want to be in entertainment. It was never an aspiration of mine. It was more of like, it was a great job, but it wasn't what I wanted. I didn't want to be in music and entertainment. I think if I did that, I would just be saying, oh, look, this cool thing that I did, but I couldn't even talk about it. So,
and I like that you say that, because I think some people, or maybe like nowadays, let's say you get this opportunity, celebrity, right? Everyone just thinks celebrity, everybody knows this is the job. You having that confidence to say like, it's a cool job, I learned something, but it's not for me, is so important. And a lot of times we may stay in places or at positions just because we think it's cool, when really it's not fulfilling what you really eventually want to do, right? And we all have one life to live.
Exactly. And so being able to say that, part of it may be that you have to try it out or ask the right questions during that interview phase to like know. I don't regret it. It was one of the most amazing years ever. I was able to bring my mom to his Newark concert. And so, it was phenomenal, but I knew it wasn't for me. And when the tour was done was when it was time for me to open up my own company. I think I had had enough experiences globally telling brand stories and kind of interacting and seeing things. And at that point, I knew that what I wanted to do was really make a difference in communications and how brands are represented, how we are telling the stories, how we're treating journalists. Coming from that editorial background, there were a lot of things that aren't done maliciously by any chance, but I think there's just things that we could do to treat journalists better and more considerate of the time that you all put into what you're doing. And just kind of coming from that, knowing the long hours, knowing all these things, it's like, why can't we just do this simpler? Why can't it just be this way? And so 11 years later, here we are with First and Last PR.
Dream drivers, did you know Ford is sharing the inspiring stories of those behind the wheel who are accomplishing their goals, pursuing their dreams, and creating the world they want to live in? Built Ford Proud is highlighting Dee Bryant, a Ford driver who has shown strength in how she's breaking boundaries to create change in her field for all those around her. So Dee is a professional stunt driver who's been featured in over 100 films, movies, and shows. She began riding motorcycles at age 11. And get this, Dee always finds herself gravitating towards Ford vehicles as her personal ride when off screen. In fact, much of her stunt driving training took place in a Ford Mustang. Dee is one of few females and even fewer African-American female stunt drivers in the industry. She constantly battles against sexism, racism, and unfair representation as many productions try to get around hiring female drivers. Dee co-founded the Association of Women Drivers, a stunt driving school where she helps teach other women to stunt drive. She's just one of the many examples that show us dream drivers that Ford drivers come from all types of backgrounds and dream driving journeys. Learn more about Dee Bryant's story at Ford.com/builtfordproud. Breaking the mold, strengthening communities, creating change, real stories brought to you by Ford, built Ford proud.
Dream drivers, Walgreens knows you need your medications, but sometimes what you really need is a prescription for more time with your family or friends, or just more time to do what you want on a Saturday afternoon. That's why Walgreens offers same-day RX delivery to where you are. So you can get more than just your meds. You can get your prescription to save time at the pharmacy. And when you have pharmacy questions, which let's face it, we all do, Walgreens will be there for you with a helpful 24/7 pharmacy chat. So when you need to know, which med do I take before bed again? Or, is it safe to have a glass of wine with my prescription? You can ask a Walgreens pharmacy expert that question no matter where you are or what time of day it is. And that gives you more than just answers. It gives you your prescription for peace of mind. Delivery is available on eligible prescriptions only. See details at walgreens.com/prescription delivery. So first of all, I just wondered, where did the name come from, right? Because I think naming is so important. And you think you really have a recognizable name and one that's memorable. Was it purposeful? Was it like, tell us the story behind the name?
Well, there's two stories. The immediate one is not as glamorous.
Okay.
There's no tagline with the first one, but the honest answer of how the name came up was that every PR company that I could think of was named after the founder, right? Rubenstein, Jackenberg, well, someone it was named after. And I just did not want to name the company after myself. I wanted it to be bigger than me. And it couldn't be Scott PR if that was going to happen. So my initial thought was it just can't be after my last name. I just didn't want that. The cute part, the story I tell most people is, we're the first ones to call and the last ones to worry about. And so first and last just kind of came in there. And we do, I think over the years, it really has become something that makes a lot of sense. We are alpha and omega when it comes to PR. We do public relations, we'll do media kits, we do social media marketing, we handle events, we handle influencer strategy. So we more so act like a communications department. We do handle everything from soup to nuts. And that's because throughout my career, I've had to be soup to nuts. And so, that's for us, that's really where that's how it started. And that's what it means.
So thinking about like those early days, were you nervous, Stephanie, about growing the company, right? Because of course you probably had relationships, right? You were able to get your first few clients. But when it came to growing it, did you ever think, will I be able to? Or were you had that same confidence of, I'll figure it out?
Funny, I wasn't nervous then because it wasn't a goal of mine.
Okay.
It wasn't a goal of mine to grow the company into being this mega force. It was really a goal of mine to set up. And because everything with First and Last PR started so organically, until I set my sights on the business side of things, honestly, it wasn't. I didn't have a fear. I was getting a phone call and a phone call and a referral after a referral. And so I've slowly kind of built the company up, but I wasn't scared because I didn't know what to be scared of, in all honesty. And I remember having a finance meeting, and I remember then being told, like, you have to start to think about some of these goals and like look at your P&L and like, what's your profit this month? And then it was like, oh, these are the conversations we need to start having. So if I'm being honest, which I always am, and initially it wasn't a fear of mine. And initially it was still something that I was discovering and I was excited about and that I was believing in because I had this word of mouth attraction to the company and like what we're doing. Now that I know better, they say, you know better, you do better. Now that I know better, that's always something that is present of mine. It's like, how do we want to grow this company out, especially after the pandemic? And like, what do we do? But also like targeting on our ideal customer. Every referral is not our ideal customer, and that's okay. So I think about those things now more than I did when we first started.
Do you think, though, that there was a beauty in you not worrying about it in the beginning, though? Like, do you think that what do you think, or why do you think not worrying, how do you think that affected where you are now, right?
If I had worried about where I was going to get to, I would have been stuck at the first base trying to figure out the best way to hit that ball. Like, you can't be fearful. Like, yes, you're going to be scared. You're going to try and figure, but you can't control everything in life. You certainly can't control everything when it comes to business, because not everything with business is be controlled by you, right? You still have to answer to clients and other people. I think if I was nervous or fearful or scared in the beginning, I may have talked myself out of it. I may have talked myself into going a completely different direction. But I think still being curious about what could be different, how can we do this differently, how can we build, and then just like having the freedom. I mean, we did a lot also with different give back initiatives. I've always like volunteered in life. So I remember I came across a newspaper article in the office the other day, and it was a photo. We used to volunteer with a nonprofit called She's the First, and we would do these cupcake fundraisers. They had to be tie-dye cupcakes. And so, myself and like an intern and another intern, were out in the streets of Inglewood selling tie-dye cupcakes, to help with this fundraiser. But I think if I was fearful that, if I take this afternoon off to do that, we're going to miss a deadline. We're going to miss. No, instead. And one of the interns, I'm still in contact with both of them. They have wonderful jobs now, but one of them wound up working with us really for like the past 7 years, freelance, doing different projects with us, and a lot of events with us too. So I think that, I don't know, fear is it's a normal thing to have. Like, it's okay to be scared and to acknowledge that there are scary times. Of course, like, I'd be lying if I said that fear doesn't exist, but I can't let fear control me. And I can't let fear dictate how my steps are going to be. I can't say that I'm nervous about this or I'm scared about that, therefore I'm not going to do this thing. I have to stick to my values and my gut and just like continue on that path of what I think is right. And I also have to have the faith. Faith is bigger than fear.
It has to be. It has to be.
The faith that even if I can't see what is down that road, I know it's going to be okay. I have no idea where we're going to be next year. I don't.
And plus the industry, I feel like this industry, we could probably even talk about that from when you started the business to where you are now. So you guys started 2012, right? So this 2012, right year? Or like, wait.
Pandemic years, 2010 or 2012, I need a calculator.
This 2023 now. So you 13 years in business or 12 years?
Wow. 2012.
Okay. So 11 years in business, right? Is that right? Yeah, 11 years.
Yes.
The industry has changed, right? Or has it? Like, what's the biggest way the industry has changed, and how did you have to shift? Because I think a lot of us, like, we don't want to have the same business we had 11 years ago, right? So how was that for you? And then how did you, Stephanie, the CEO, have to really learn how to shift and stay in line with the times and the needs of your client and not what you wanted to do per se, right?
I think a lot of that, I mean, the industry has shifted in so many ways, and I have to look at it from, PR and editor. 2 weeks ago, we went on our first round of desk sides since the pandemic.
So that you're doing them again now. So editors want that now.
Yes. So, but what I've found is that it depends on where the editor is. So are they hybrid? Are they in office? And the way that we did those desk sides, which wouldn't have happened, 10 years ago, we did a combination of hybrid and in person. And it was really whatever fit the editor's schedule, which is my way to go. The editor is the leader. The client wants it this way. Well, what does the editor want? Because we're requesting a meeting with them. So what's going to be best for their schedule, and how can we respect their time? So we did a combination. Some of the desk side meetings were on a Zoom. Some of them were in person. Some of them were over lunch. Some of them were in the office for some. It really varied based off of what the schedule was like. But 5 years ago, it would have just been Oh, and a desk side meeting, for those of you who don't know.
I just thought about probably should tell people what that means. And that will help me lead to my next question.
So they're editor appointments, editor producer appointments where you schedule out. It's a chance for a client or a brand to meet in person with a journalist. So you request some time on their calendar over a series of days, like 1 or 2, maybe 3 days, and then you schedule the mini interviews at their desk, which is why it's called a desk side. And that way you can present new products or your brand, and they can interview your clients, just learn more about them in person, opposed to it being through email, which may be more challenging because we get 5,000 emails a day. And exactly. So those are desk side appointments.
Okay. So, from my purview, people listening to this podcast, there might be people who have small businesses themselves, right? And then there might be like the content creators and the influencers. So I want to kind of get your opinion on both sides. Let's start with the brands. You work with beauty brands, right?
And healthy lifestyle, wellness. Yep.
Wellness, beauty, lifestyle. What do you think is important for brands to know about what it takes to get good? So PR, if you guys don't know, means public relations, right? That's press, which is different from marketing. That's a whole different spiel, right? But what do you think brands need to know about like why their PR might not be working and what you really should be investing in 2023 if you want to get results? And I know results can be different for every company. Everyone has different goals. But from your experience, like what are the things that are working for your clients? And then like what are things that brands like, who are listening, like should be investing in right now in this industry, or in this current time?
Yeah. I think the first thing, and it's the one thing that we always like emphasize and almost overemphasize, is strategy. So what are your goals, and like have you identified that? And for a lot of smaller brands that we work with, we'll hear things like, I want PR because I want more sales. That's not PR. That's marketing. That's advertising. So public relations, just like you said, it's the relations that you have with the public. And so a lot of it is organic. A lot of it is really telling that brand story and making sure that it's being heard by the right people, the right publications, the right media. But it really is more organic and then amplifying from there. There could also be different opportunities for like in person and events. And these could be events that are produced by the publications. It just depends. But I think, first of all, you have to have understanding of what your goals are, what your product story is, and then how do you amplify from there. And so PR can really help you to identify what that story is, who the audience is. Some of the things that I've seen that, haven't gone well, maybe hiring an agency, but not having a strategy or not having them come up with a strategy for you. And so, I've heard people say, well, I never saw a PR plan before. Like, you're the first one that ever created a PR plan for me. And that's crazy.
Like, what were you working against? Just hoping that, okay, let's just do this random stuff, right?
So the first thing that we do before we even write a press release is we come up with the strategy and we come up with a plan and we present that to the client, and we sit down in a very long and thoughtful meeting presenting all the ideas, and we get feedback in real time before we can actually execute. Because you may be thinking, I want a sandwich. You may come back with tuna. I'm allergic to tuna. You know what I mean? Like, we need to get specific on what it is that we want in order to get those results. So we'll do that. We'll map out the media targets. We do a lot of things that are very, I think, personal in our approach. We try that as well. So we're not sending out a lot of like mass, whatever. And I think it's just really about honing in on that, and also just trying to take the time as much as you can to like get to know the journalists, to really get to know the industry and really like tapping into that. I could probably make a list of like 5,000 things that you can do wrong in PR. That's why I put my company. Little things like on the press, the one pet peeve I had when I was an editor was like, if a PR company sends out a press release and purposely doesn't put the price of the information, on the press release, because, there was one company, I was an editor, I won't say who wouldn't put the price on there because they wanted you to reach out to them so that they would know if their product was going to be included in the story. So self-serving, because I'm like, I'm a journalist. I'm on deadline. I've got to
make it easy for me. I like you if you make my life easier. Give me a title too. I love when people pitch me and they even give me like suggested podcast titles. Like, these are things that we can talk about in this. Like, make it easy for me. I'll pick one that works for me and we'll run it. And I'll interview your client because you helped me tell the story, right?
So just simple things like that to make the journalist's job easier, because they have so many other things they're focusing on. They want to be able to focus on the meat of the story and like where to grow it from there. So I think that's really it. Make it easy for the journalist.
And then from the other side, right, you have the influencers. I think that, in this market, the influencer creator economy is just growing. And even the pandemic, I feel like, really created like a whole new wave of like the TikTok people, right? People who really use that time to invest in their passions and build these online brands, because that's all we could do was be online and be on our phone and find new niche communities. What do you think influencers need to understand about the way they work with brands and what brands want to see, right? Because I think now everyone's goal is like, I want to be an influencer. I want to get these brand deals. I want PR packages. I want, this. But what really matters, especially from your point of view when you're working with influencers?
I think, for us, the quality of the content, and not just from an artistic standpoint, but just from a messaging standpoint. Who is your community? Why did you launch? How do you relate to the products that we're working with and the clients we're working with? So if you are someone who believes in all natural ingredients, do you align with this hair care brand? If you are an influencer that's all about wellness, will you relate and tie into like Be Rooted's journals? So just kind of looking at who you are as a person and what you stand for. And then does the content like make sense from there? So I might have explained it like in a long way, but I think really it's like, who is that person? What are your beliefs? And does the content resonate and reflect all of that? And then if so, then it's almost like, that's really cool. I'd love to see what you can do with this brand that we're working with. I really like how you're speaking to your community, and I really like what you stand for and like how you're driving your own brand messaging home. And so if you're doing it that well for you and for this, I'd love to see what you can do with our brand, who I think aligns because of X, Y, and Z reason. So I think really kind of tapping into that and not just doing it for the gram, but really, for a reason.
One thing that you didn't mention, and I just want to know how important is it, is the amount of followers, right? Because there are people, okay, I'll just use myself as an example. I think like I am like within the entrepreneurial space, like in talking to people. Like my thing is, I'm not a beauty content creator, but I like learning about the behind the scenes of the industry and the people, right? So that's my thing. But I may not have like 1 million followers, right? But you still came on and said, hey, I want to do your podcast, right? I mean, we also have a relationship beyond this, so that also factors in. But do numbers always matter, right? Because numbers don't always mean that you'll be able to meet the goals that your client is looking for, or that the biggest influencer is always the best one for that strategy that you have for your brand, right?
So I purposely didn't lead with numbers, because for us, the numbers don't always matter. It really depends on the brand, the activation, and what's happening. Sometimes the numbers could be great, but I look at engagement rate. And we've done partnerships with influencers that have a smaller number, but their engagement rate is like through the roof. And so that to us may mean more than someone who's got 1 million followers, but their engagement rate is like less than 1%,
Exactly.
So I think so what we'll look at is that it isn't always a numbers game. It really is, which is why I did say like it's community, and it's like the type of content that you're creating that really carries that weight. Will numbers matter at some point? Yes, of course. But if the right numbers don't matter, if that engagement rate isn't what it needs to be. I also look at little things like, part of that engagement is like the comments below. Are you actually interacting with whoever's commenting, or are you like leaving their questions unanswered? Not that every single comment can be answered, but for certain ones or for key ones, are those being addressed? And like, how active are you with your community? So it isn't always about who has the biggest numbers that matters. It really is about the work that you're doing and how you're connecting with your audience.
Thank you for sharing that. I just hope anyone listening, like, don't give up, right? Just because you may not be where you want to be, or maybe you're not working with the brand you want to. Like, have you ever had people reach out to you just to get on your radar so that you know about them in case there were opportunities? Because I think that's also something that people may be scared to just put yourself out there, introduce yourself to an agency just so that they know that you exist. Because a lot of times you might not know everyone that's out there, right? Like, there are pockets that are still undiscovered.
Totally. Yeah. And I think it's a great way to a great tip to mention to people, whether you're just starting out or like if you're whatever. We do receive either emails or DMs saying, hey, I'm an influencer or I'm a newer brand, whoever it is. And I'd love to just get on your radar. I'd love to be on your mailing list, your emails. And those are fantastic. I'll typically share those over, if she doesn't catch them before I do, our social media manager who also manages our influencer programs. And that way, when something does come about, then that's perfect. Or if we have events that are in the area, like we'll know. I'd rather reach out to someone who's aware of who we are than like kind of cold pitching someone or like he's not knowing at all that you exist, because there are so many new platforms that are coming up and so many new things. So yeah, I think it's great to be able to reach out and just like form those relationships. We're all here to be friends. So we welcome that for sure.
So 11 years into First and Last PR, Stephanie, what's some challenges that you're working through right now, right? I know the pandemic definitely was a huge shift to the industry, going from events, being in person, to kind of having to understand the virtual world and how to interact with the press and the public virtually, right? Like, beyond that, are there other things that you as a business owner or just you as a person are really working through now in this stage of where the business is?
Yeah, I think, I've always been big on evolving, like constant evolution. The world is constantly changing and we have to change along with it. And so being able to figure out kind of your next big moves, your next pivots, the next things you need to do is something when we were slightly dealing with, safety and health concerns. So what's our next big signature event? Can we do that?
Kudos to the Lip Bar launch that you guys, the Lip Bar skincare launch. That looks so dope. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, Google it. Look at the First and Last PR page. Melissa Butler was on the podcast like 2017. So it's just crazy to see how much she's doing since then, how much you've been doing since we first talked in 2015. So yeah.
We're excited. And we just started working with Thread, which is Melissa's other newer brand also.
Okay.
So we're excited about that. But yeah, I think for us, it's just, saying yes to the right things, making sure we're saying no to the wrong things. And also, how do we expand community? We do have a beautiful showroom in Jersey City, and I've been toying with how do we utilize the space more? Do we invite creators in for like content creation days? Do I invite business owners in for like strategy sessions? Just trying to figure out what that next thing is so that we're constantly growing and evolving as a company. And also within this industry, making sure that we're doing our part here as well. So I think that's like the biggest struggle that I have right now is figuring out how to give back, what to do, and how to continue building while there's so much going on at the same time.
One of my biggest struggles right now is kind of like that, like what does evolution look like? But I think for me, it's also the comparison game. I don't know how it is in the PR industry, right? Like amongst different agencies and what you might see like other agencies are doing in the space. But how do you deal with that comparison and then realizing like, no, First and Last is the boss at this, and I don't need to be looking left and right to see what other people do, but kind of looking straight ahead and being focused on that. Because it's really hard, I would say. And especially as like a woman of color, I feel like, not saying that we can be the underdog sometimes, right? And just the overall market. Maybe I'm just speaking as like a podcaster within the space, and not everyone has a podcast. Not everyone's on video, right? And it's like, but wait, it seems like everyone's moving further than I am, but I've been here longer. Does that make sense? So that's something that I'm personally dealing with. But just wondering, like, how do you deal with, or do you deal with that in your lane as well?
I don't.
Okay, that's good. Kudos, right?
I think if you are looking, and it's like one of the things also with like social media and Instagram, like if you're constantly looking at something and comparing yourself, you'll just be one of the two things. You'll be stuck there watching everybody, or you'll wind up trying to chase what somebody else has. And I don't want that. I want what's for me. So we spent a lot of time, I think, more introspectively as a team. What do we want to focus on? What are some things that are exciting to us? What do we want to do? And then following that, and then we kind of build from there. But I'm not really looking at anybody else's agency. I'm not looking at anyone else's company to figure out anything. The most that we'll look at is like, who can we partner with for different events, or who can we partner with for different programs or campaigns? But I'm so busy focusing on all the 5,000 ideas popping into my head every time I turn around, and how can we execute on those, that I don't really have time to look at somebody else's and chase after those. To drive, not mine.
Okay, listen, no, I think that's so important. And it's just a reminder that you don't have to, right? You can still, because look at all that you guys have accomplished. And of course, I'll talk about it in the bio if you guys haven't heard it already. Like, you have done the damn thing and you are continuing to do it. So I guess the formula is working for you, right? So if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
So, Stephanie, what's next? Like, what is getting you really excited about what's next for First and Last PR? What's next in the industry that you just feel like, this is really going to take off and I want to be part of it?
What's next? I was chatting with someone this morning, and I was saying, I think we're in 2023 is like the year of opportunity. I think it's the year of, doors are open, masks are off. What is it that we can explore, and how can we do this? And I think that, I feel a sense of strength having overcome. I mean, I thought I've been through a lot in my life. We don't have enough time in this podcast for it, but overcoming some of the things that I've overcome personally, and then more recently with, pandemic things I've overcome professionally, it really is like, how much can we achieve? And it doesn't necessarily mean like how big can we go? But I think for me, it's more about what is it that we really can do? How can we make a difference? What can we really make a dent in? And what is it that we can do so that, more voices are heard? And what's the path for that? What is it that we can do from there? So that's really what lies ahead. For me, it's really about, from a professional standpoint, how can we grow as a team? What can we do? How can we make sure that everyone is feeling, fulfilled in that standpoint? How can we make sure that we have the right leadership in place and like we're growing in that instance? And then also from a client standpoint, who are some of the dream clients that we haven't yet driven with? Who are some of the dream clients that we really do want to work with? And what are some of the programs we haven't done? One thing that we've been able to do with a lot of our clients also is do like some CSR work. Sometimes we'll have clients that will ask us, who should we partner with for give back initiatives? Or they'll let us know they have initiatives, and we're fortunate enough to work with them to also partner on those. So I think definitely finding more ways just to give back within the industry and use some of this for good is what I'm looking forward to going forward.
That's exciting. I'm looking forward to just seeing what you guys do. I just feel like, I've been appreciative of how much you've included me in on, past campaigns that you've done, and just always kind of being like, I know I could, if I email Stephanie, she'll email me back. So Stephanie, if you want to be a dream driver, you have to have your keys to success, right? So tell me 3 things that you think every dream driver needs in their toolkit before they hit the road.
3 things that you need in your kit. A good piece of chocolate.
I love it. What's your favorite brand of chocolate? What kind of chocolate do you keep in your toolkit?
I love like a chocolate with like a liquid caramel. I don't know if it goes back to like those Easter bunnies back in the day, but now I have, who am I eating? I don't even know the name of this company. Endangered Species. They sell it at a coffee shop near the office, and I see it at Whole Foods. But any type of milk chocolate or a slightly dark chocolate with a liquid caramel. I don't like the dry caramel, but a liquid one. Have to have that.
Okay.
You have to have a really good journal to write down what your path is, and so that you know where you're going and where you need to kind of level in and go to. And then you also just need some me time. You need some time to be able to think and like figure it out and not hear all the voices so that you don't get caught in the trend or you know, here's what so-and-so said I should be doing, but you can actually listen to that inner voice. It's going to tell you the right path to take for you. So I think those are 3 really important things to keep with you at all times.
Well, thank you so much, Stephanie. This has been such a fun conversation. It's always just nice to catch up with you and see what's new. And I feel like it's also great for you to get your shine. I think that you do so much for your brands and the clients that you work with. And I know I've been like meaning to reach out to you, but I'm like, we need to hear the person behind this and who's really making it happen. So just want to say, continue doing what you do. And I know that the brands that you work with are very appreciative of the work that you've done. And for me, somebody who 7 years ago, right? We were able to connect back then, and just seeing how much you've done since then is also inspiring. So thank you.
Thank you, Raina. Thank you for acknowledging. Thank you for inviting me on. I'm really honored. So thank you very much.
No problem.
All right, so that's the wrap for this episode of Dreams and Drive. I hope you enjoyed our guest's dream driving journey as well as listening to their keys to success. If you love this episode, you know what to do. Please make sure that you are following us. We are at Dreams and Drive across social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So make sure you're sharing this episode, posting it to your Instagram stories, texting it to a friend, sharing on LinkedIn, wherever you are or online. Just pay this forward and share this with somebody. We really appreciate it. And all the sharing that you do helps us grow our community. If you want to join our email newsletter, The Keys, and get weekly updates delivered to your inbox, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/join. That's dreamsanddrive.com/join. And lastly, if you know somebody who would be great for this show, or if you are someone who would be great for this show, please go to dreamsanddrive.com/pitch. I'm always accepting new guests. I'm always accepting new pitches. So I love to see those pitch requests coming in. Keep dreaming, keep driving, and we'll chat again in the next episode. Bye, guys.